Alrighty. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. Welcome. How's everybody? We are live, believe it or not. We are live. It's late in the day. It occurs to me for our friends in, well, I guess East Coast is still basically okay. It's 4 o'clock there, but then anything, you go to Brazil, it's 5 o'clock already. It's Europe, and Europe is asleep. Japan just woke up, so maybe we'll get some of the very far east contingent. Australia is certainly well awake at this point. Hi there from Switzerland. Good gravy. That's 9 hours ahead from here. It's 1 o'clock. So does that mean 10 o'clock? It's 13 plus 9 is 3. That's 11 o'clock. Gee whiz. That's wow. Hi. You can see the there's people. There's still some stragglers. People who have hi, hello, welcome, hi. Thanks for joining us from all across the world, wherever you are. Hey, I'm glad to see you all. It's been a minute. It's been. I don't know if we've told you, but there's a conference on. It's there's a. Wait, is it 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock? It's about to be 1300 here, and it's 9 hours. Oh yeah, because plus 10 is 23, plus 9 is 22. I need more coffee. I've only had one, only the one. And the math is not so great. Anyway, we've got a conference on, and we're busy, okay? It's just been a very busy few weeks, everybody. So I'm sorry for the lack of live streams or anything really, but we got a doozy for you today. From India, hi, wow, okay, yeah. So that's South Asia. That's like 4 hours behind Japan, wait, actually no, it's still late. What am I talking about? Japan doesn't wake up until 4 in the afternoon. I don't know why, because I connected 4 o'clock in the afternoon for the East Coast, and I thought for a second that it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon here, and so Japan is not awake. It's still very early in the morning for them. Guarana instead of coffee. Is that like Red Bull, or is that? Oh no, Guarana is the like the Brazilian. What's that drink? The red drink that you can't, the drink from the fruit that we can't really easily get here, but you can get in like in Brazilian restaurants. Guarana. Yeah, I like Guarana. Yeah. Hello from South Africa. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Goodness. So okay, that's GMT basically, right? So that'll be 8 hours ahead. So what did we just say? 9 o'clock then, I guess. 9 o'clock there. So thanks for joining us. Appreciate you all. We got my friend Mark here. He's the only one who knows what's going on in these trying times. You need somebody like Mark to help. South Africa is GMT +2. Oh, so you're what? Does that make sense? I guess so. GMT +2, so 11. No, wait, 8, 9, 10 hours? 10 hours ahead? Is it true?
It's getting late over there.
So it's London +2, right? Like,
10 p.m.
Is it because of the standard time? Is it because of the daylight standard time? Or something? Yeah. I'm so confused. 10 p.m. in South Africa.
Have you had that drink? Guarana?
I've had it. There's a drink from Brazil, Guarana drink. Guarana.
Energy drink. Okay.
Yeah, it's a drink, Guarana Antarctica, and it's made from a fruit though. There's a fruit in there that I don't think you can import in the States. The drink itself you can buy, right?
Yeah.
And it'll get you. It's like Red Bull, but yeah.
I haven't had that. I have had a trip to South America, and I'll never forget looking at the fruit bowl and not recognizing any of the fruit on it. And it was amazing.
Yeah, Guarana. Okay, well, anyway, I like Guarana. That's good stuff. And it tastes like Red Bull, but it's real as opposed to the.
There you
go. See, the drink is very sugar. Okay, good point. See, Guarana. Okay, so that's the fruit then. So I only had the drink. No, I've had the fruit in South America, but I've never had the fruit here. I've had the drink here. You can go to a churrascaria anywhere here in the States and get that drink, go on Antarctica, whatever. Now you're making me feel bad. I just miss.
You're gonna make me want a coffee with this talk.
Yeah, exactly. Me too, actually. Oh, hey, actually, Mark, question for you. This one's for you. You can, go ahead.
The adoption of platforms like that is very slow in the Spring framework ecosystem.
I don't know if I agree with the premise, but if I did, what would be the answer?
So Tanzu is not in all of the different. I think Spring is the ubiquitous platform, and then a lot of the enterprises using Tanzu over the years have it's peanut butter and jelly. They work extremely well together.
Yeah.
But it's actually a good question why Spring doesn't pull it in with it. Maybe it's just the nature of the way that the Tanzu platform kind of goes into the enterprises and kind of doubles up, and they kind of meet in the middle. But it ain't because they're not very, very complementary. That's what I do. And I love making people like yourself, Josh, there's many like you be able to just go at full speed.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think, obviously Spring doesn't, the uptake of any particular cloud platform, I think relative to the uptake of Spring will always be, because you don't need a platform to run Spring.
Right.
Right. So
part of its magic, right?
Sorry?
Part of its magic is completely
right. And I think you'd be surprised by just how many people are using the Tanzu stuff. But I would argue that there's probably a lot more enterprise than your average sort of, you can be a Spring enthusiast without having to think about enterprise sort of, I don't know, sizes and scales and whatever.
Right. Absolutely.
But that's a good point. So, Mark, can you introduce yourself? This is the question. I was like, who are you?
Hey, I'm Fynes. I've been a platform architect, a solution engineer, a field principal at Tanzu forever, even before it was called Tanzu. I joined Pivotal after I was doing middleware throughout since the beginning of the century, and cut up with Fisher and team early on and learned about Spring integration in 2005. And I was always working in middleware that then became cloud platforms or platform as a service, and Pivotal was that perfect fit for me. And looked at Cloud Foundry and never went back. And I'm going to put it out there to say that experience is second to none.
Right.
Implemented their flavors of ice cream, but let's just make those developers as capable as possible. So that's what I've been doing for a living, and it's a ton of fun. I like enabling the innovators, particularly in enterprises where it's typically quite tricky, and there's a lot of checks and balances and controls, some of which make it very difficult.
Right.
And so for me, bringing in the right flavor of platform, getting those teams that are on the innovation side, on the leading edge, going fast, it's always a ton of fun. And then it just takes off. And the technology waves every few years, there's a new one coming along. And, I've been talking to the marketing team on Spring AI stuff. It's just everywhere now. It's super exciting. We go back a few years, there were Spring Cloud services. We can kind of pick ones. But yeah, so that's what I do. I'm there to enable folks like yourself. That's what I do.
It's well appreciated, because actually that does, in my mind, in my estimation, the sort of enabling function of a platform is that it disappears and it just allows you to latch on to the latest and greatest in trends and use cases and whatever. And so to that end, I think there's very, very few that stand so competitive as Tanzu when it comes to enabling Spring developers to, be a part of the zeitgeist. Like there's this, you just mentioned AI, you mentioned microservices. And even there was a time when I think the platform was itself interesting, right? The fact of the platform, the existence of, the availability of was interesting. And I think that's been commoditized now, there's two really sort of, I don't know, I think we kind of landed on two different levels of abstraction, granularity, and one is the platform as a service stuff, and then the other is whatever, Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Us,
I always get scared. I have a little GIF that I made, a little logo, and it's YAML with the red circle and the line through it.
Oh, yeah.
I get scared when it's 1,000 lines at home to get something working, because that's taking me away from what I'm trying to do.
Right.
I love Auntie's original haiku. Just run this for me. I don't care how. But I do actually think though that the construct of a marketplace, of a services broker, is at least as important, if not even more so, because we're in an island. We're an island of one. If we just have a JVM, we want to have the services around that easy to create. So, yeah, I'm with you, and I actually think in 2024 we're still having that same conversation. What's the safe, fast, easy button, and to get it running?
Yeah, like yeah. There's a question here.
Yeah.
Question for you.
So that's a great question, and I think so.
The question is, as you're working on Tanzu, how do you let go of bias and decide which platform to use for any project and see the bigger picture for future enhancement?
So I would look top down. And so we were just talking about it. If they're a Spring shop and they're running Spring the wrong way, can I help them on the Spring side?
Yeah.
And there's so much in just that layer alone, as we both know. And if they're going to some native cloud service, so be it. If they're trying to create a cloud-like experience and have the option to either work in a data center adjacent to where the operational data stores are, or have something that's giving them something clean that runs across different, that's when it can be very interesting. We all like a Cloud Run or another serverless style model. Can I have one of those, but can I have that in different places? In the end, can we help them move faster without having everyone rip it down and build it all again? So there's a time and a place for various parts of Tanzu. Like right now, we have two flavors. Like we've got the Cloud Foundry version and we got the Kubernetes version. And even in that, you've got decisions. What I find is that the experience is most important, and we need to get to those that are trying to build something as opposed to those kind of prop-up platforms. Because if you can solve the customer's problem first, generally the right stack will present itself.
Yeah. Isn't that right? That feels like the right answer, which is that we don't make you choose, right? We can decide to use Tanzu with some impunity for a lot of use cases because there's no concessions implied, right? Like if you want to do platform as a service, we have a choice for you. If you want to do low-level infrastructure and Kubernetes, we got that as well. If you want to do on-prem, you can do that. If you want to do hosted in a platform, in an infrastructure as a service offering or something like that, you can do that. You can run on top of AWS or Azure, or you can run in your own data center. It's sort of, they're all options. So, and
like I had one customer and they were doing mostly Java Spring on Cloud Foundry in a data center. And there was this talk, they wanted to run some stuff in Azure. And it was interesting because there were two groups, one doing it old school, called in some system integrator, migrate VMs, rerun them. And then we just ran the same API in Azure. And the guys barely knew they were moving, because they just targeted it somewhere else and they could run. And they could then choose, and in some cases, repatriate back. But we gave them that abstraction, because I think multi-cloud is way further behind than hybrid cloud. Everyone's got something in a building and something in a cloud. Right. And that portability was super cool to show off. And it was really interesting because team came along and they did 20 microservices over there. It was just great fun. They barely knew they'd moved.
Right. And that's the nice thing. I mean, if you're a Spring user, I think that aesthetic, that hey, I've got this idea, it's a piece of technology, I want to deploy it. I don't want to be overly encumbered. And in the same way that Spring allows me to run my program public static void main, sort of indifferent to the application server, to the cloud platform, to the runtime. It's large. I don't know. And so then the enabling thing becomes not the deployment model. I think, I don't know. There are three deployment models that I can think of today. There's serverless, there's platform as a service, and there's infrastructure as a service, right?
Right. And I think Kubernetes feels more like it's heavily virtualized. It's got lots of nice things, but you've got a pod. That pod's got a full image in there.
Yeah.
Or inside it, you got a full stack inside there to compose up and maintain. If you go up to the serverless, sure, you give it a function and off you go. I always felt the platform is closer to the serverless story
Yep.
And not closer to the Kubernetes into the IaaS level, right down below. And you can have all the flexibility. Like one guy said to me once, he said, for these models, he said, I don't get this because I think 1% of our apps or 5% of our apps need the flexibility afforded by a full Kubernetes dialect.
Right.
And 95 of the folks are going to drown in the YAML
Right.
when needed. So whatever it is we do, please help those guys too, and make sure you get the right abstractions in place. Because again, out of my way, a good platform, you won't even know it's there.
Yeah.
That's the way I think about it.
What chat? What platforms are you using? And anything? Yeah. I'm just curious. We got a pretty good spread from people around the planet here. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of that company from Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of those two. So yeah, in terms of anyway, all that to say, I think the deployment model is a solved problem. I think we've figured out basically what shapes a cloud application will look like, and it doesn't look like an application server, right? It doesn't. We're not deploying WebSphere, right? That's not the shape of, like, you don't see Node.js and Ruby developers just going, oh gosh, I wish I could take advantage of WebSphere,
No.
Whereas on the other hand, we can all agree being in the cloud looks probably like platform as a service, or probably like infrastructure as a service. And so given that that's, I think, I hope I'm not being presumptuous, but I think it's a solved problem. Given that that's the case, what's the force multiplier? What's the lever that gives us? And I think it's the services you just mentioned, the marketplace.
So I've been talking to a bunch of customers this year, and it's been very interesting because with AI all the rage, they run off and get on a reservation list and try and get some GPU access in the cloud. And if they can get there, then they start paying by the token, and they realize this is going to get expensive. And they might have some GPUs in the data center, but they don't want to go through ticket-based ops to try and get someone to set something up on it. And they love that self-service autonomy that they get out there, but they don't like the bill, especially in AI. And so I was literally dealing with them just last week on this topic, but if they could have that self-service view, have that experience back here, and so I showed them their Tanzu Cloud Foundry flavor, because not only do we have a Gen AI tile in there that'll broker down onto your GPUs in the data center too, but it also's got Postgres, so you've now got a vector store as a service. It's got Spring Cloud Gateway, so now you can do your rate limiting and your API protecting. And then, of course, I've just set the canvas for you to bring in Spring AI next, because it'll use all of that. And so that's the kind of fun I have lately. But I agree with you, Josh. I think the service marketplace and having the right hot services of the day is a key piece of that.
Yeah, I wonder if people know. I wonder if enough people know what Cloud Foundry is for this to be. It just occurred to me we should have level set. So you've got low-level infrastructure as a service, in which case the abstraction by which you describe your services is the virtual machines, the RAM, the CPU, the GPU in the case of the AI workloads and some sort of data science use cases. And that's very low level. It lets you pretend you've got an operating system and you can pull together the ratios and mixtures. And it's comprehensive insofar as you get control over everything, but it's also exhaustive and exhausting because you have to control everything. And then you move up the stack. You move up the stack a bit, and you say, okay, look, I trust that Linux is Linux, and the firewall is on by default, and I want to serve HTTP traffic over HTTPS, and I want port 8080, and I'm going to be online 24/7. So just optimize for that. That's a pretty common use case, right? Sometimes I don't have the HTTP endpoint, sometimes I do, but basically just run my program. My program is what's important, right? And so like everything else is sort of immaterial. I just want you to run my process. And in that respect, you've got other platforms like Cloud Foundry, and obviously we're in great company. There's things like Roku, like Google App Engine, like what's that other one that disappeared? The Engine Yard. Are they still out there? I don't remember. There was.
I remember that one.
Was there Cloudies? Was that? There's a bunch, right? There's a lot of different stories out there, but I think the Cloud Foundry one is the one that's sort of the most interesting because it's open source and really, really powerful.
Yeah, for me, again, you're right. They're attacking the problem that's an experience-driven requirement. I need a simplicity. I need a safety. I need to be able to work without calling people. Like you mentioned, the app servers. I remember guys talking to me. I went into a healthcare company years ago, and I showed them Cloud Foundry, and we started off running it in cloud. Then we got it into their building, so it was inside the firewall. And I asked the guys, "What's life like today?" And they said, "Oh yeah, when we have our app built, we have to put it in a SharePoint, and then we have to open up a ticket, and the guy has to copy it and upload it into WebSphere." This is a long time ago, granted, but they were going nuts because it was 2 days to deploy something, and they weren't even talking about prod. And I thought, "Oh my goodness!" And so we changed that to here's CF push, run that command, and you're up. And it was fun to watch the reaction people had to that.
Yeah,
a lot of fun with that.
And it's not just speed though, right? Like, yes, because you're right, the cycle time is like huge, but I know a lot of technologies that are very, very quick but completely unsafe, and so the other thing is that because you have this automated platform, the input to which is your application, and so it just sort of derives most of what it needs to understand and run your program from the artifact that you hand it, because it's doing this work around your application artifact. Everything else is sort of, well, it's centralized. There's only one definition of the way to do it, and if you want to change that process, you just change one thing in the entire platform, and all programs benefit from that. So if you want to, there's a service, if there's a CVE, fix it in one place. If you want to change what version of Java is running, change it in one place for the whole platform.
I had that one. It was I think it was Spectre or Meltdown.
Yeah.
I got a note from a security officer saying, and this is like May, "What's your plan to have this remediated by December here?" And they're running about 1,000+ application instances. It's a significant deployment. And I checked with my platform, on their side, and I said, "Did you roll the new stem cells in? That's the underlying piece that just rolls in, no outages to do it." And he goes, "Yeah, I put them in last week." And I was able to reply with one of my fun emails ever, where it said, "All done, no hours needed."
It's done.
And it's just like, again, it's taking the headache away from the teams, but it's not putting. Now compare that with infrastructure, where somebody is holding the ball, whether it's a gazillion Docker files stuck in build server somewhere. Repos. Again, it's like with more power comes more responsibility. If you really want to build your own and tune your own full stack, okay, but you're gonna have to babysit it over time, or someone will have to.
Yeah.
And so I love that kind of day two thing, where if it's OS level, just rolls right in. And then I love Deshaun's friends don't let friends use Docker files, I think is something like that. He loves build pack. He loves packing apps. As I do too, and that's a portable technology. That's not a Cloud Foundry thing. Heroku's use it, CF's use it. It's available all over the place. But just can we pull that away, make it a little easier at the beginning, but my goodness, save us a lot on the long tail for that.
Yeah, it's so much. There's just so many things you can get wrong, and it's not even related to your actual business value. Why would you entertain it? Why would you?
Yeah, Cora took me through, because she's super strong on this stuff, and she was taking me through how Docker looks easy, but done right, you gotta watch yourself, and you gotta then get your compliance people to approve your build as well. And it was, it's a deep rabbit hole. Yeah.
So this is the core Cloud Foundry value proposition. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, I'm a huge fan just because it's set and forget, and to the point that I can forget about it. I'm happy. I did a book. You might know I did a book in 2017 called Cloud Native Java. And I don't normally write about cloud stuff. I mean, I write about cloud software, but I don't write about infrastructure usually. But this one I could, because it was like I could have a 5-line YAML file deploy each artifact that told the platform everything it needed to run this application. And so why wouldn't I include that in the build? Why? Like I could actually have, as a result of I could talk about, here's a 3 microservice system that displays whatever, client-side load balancing. And I could actually, as part of my integration tests, spin that up, deploy it, and actually have these things talk to each other in the way I describe for the book, for every artifact in every chapter and every part of the book,
It reminds me of a customer I brought you to see a long time ago. And, you did your magic and they saw some amazing stuff. And then I'm checking in with them not long thereafter, and they took a batch process that was like a 10-hour job, and I think they were using Spring Streams, and but they were able to get that thing down to, I think, 45 minutes because they were able to horizontally scale a bunch of processors. What was very interesting though was, the initial sample you can do local on the laptop, but then they were able to just wallop it into a platform, give it a nice big rabbit broker behind the scenes,
Right.
cluster, and let it go for it. And then, of course, elastically scale on the back end and let it, if the queue's deep, let it run more and more up until you hit your quota. But the really nice part was transitioning from showing them how to do it in a sandbox or a local environment up to a scaled one. And it just made me think of that because I always like meeting them after they've had what we would like to call the Josh show.
Yeah, that is it. It's so powerful to take something that works locally and just see it work in production with ease.
Yeah. And for me now, I'm looking at things like again, I know Deshaun's a big fan of it as well, but I'm fascinated by native, even though it doesn't work for everything.
Fascinated by what?
Native compilation. And
right. Oh, me too.
What does it mean if you take 80% of the footprint out of certain apps and completely close down their start times, and what does that opportunity open up for you? Now, again, hey, there he is. I don't say it for everything, but it's for everything. But again, it sort of, the light bulbs go off for me, and I say, there's something here. There's something here.
Yep, it's endlessly valuable. Deshaun, hey buddy, good to see you. Well, Deshaun could join. He must be busy, but it's good to see you, my friend. If he wants to join us, of course, he's got the keys. So the native image thing is also really powerful. So can we do that? Okay, but it's not the direct path. It's not the normal path, right? When you build a Spring application today, you're building a JVM application. Native is a separate path a fork in the road. It's not particularly hard to do, but it is a different left instead of right or whatever. So can Cloud Foundry, which optimizes for your application deployment, does it support native?
Yeah, I think we show you later on. So with the latest builds of Cloud Foundry, again, you see this word. Remember, and I'm going to say Cloud Foundry a lot. And what we're doing under Tanzu is, again, there's cross-pollinating capabilities that have Kubernetes behind them and Cloud Foundry behind them. They're so, for example, build packs became cloud native build packs with the V3 version. They create OCI images. What they did, though, with the latest Cloud Foundry, and we have a beta of this now, is we took the cloud native build pack for building a native image, which is the cloud native Java one, and we put it into Cloud Foundry. Now, why do that? Well, it means that the platform now could be your native image compilation engine, which is very interesting to me because you can do it, but I find it's a bit of a pain to get someone to formally have a build system for native image compiling. It's also pretty compute intensive. It's like a 15-minute wait. But what I've been doing exploring this beta project is I said, okay, I'm just going to do my CF push. So I built a jar, I did a -p native, and I did put the growl tools in my palm. That's it. But other than that, I'm just running normal. And I get hello world running in 2 minutes with one command. And what I was able to do is ask the platform to convert that, or attempt to convert that non-disruptively into a native image. And so what I have is I have my regular JIT compiled, hotspot optimized, et cetera, running Java app.
Yeah.
Thing on a port and it's saying hello world to me. And I can run a command and 15 minutes later come back and there's another parallel implementation running in like 32 meg, not a gig. And I love that because it says to me that for the workloads, because I've often found that memory is the scarce commodity when you're deploying enterprise apps. And I've had a nickel for every time someone said, hey, can I shrink this down? And we say, no, let the build packs memory calculator do the right thing for you. It's much better that way. Stop trying to fine tune.
Right.
But when it's an executable, it actually does run in substantially less memory. And again, disclaimer, I actually think there's more interesting stuff going on with class loader data sharing stuff.
Yeah.
For giving everybody a bit of help, but there's these class of apps. I'm really interested in what it means for them. Does it mean going to the edge with assets that I think Deshaun runs on a Raspberry Pi, some of his natively compiled stuff.
Right.
So I'm fascinated by finding that spot, because again, the gigabyte hour is the unit. I've seen enterprises kind of say to the app teams, you're using this many gigabyte hours, meaning all of the memory for all of the JVMs everywhere. And sometimes some apps might be able to say it's a heck of a lot less if we take this extra compile step. But we don't want to rip apart our build system to do it. Can we continue iterating, get compiling working as normal, but then test to see if it would run natively? That's been a fun experiment for me, kind of on the front end of a beta pack that's quite young. They've literally just got that into the Cloud Foundry side of things, introducing the cloud native build packs back to the Cloud Foundry world.
Oh, I love this. That'd be so. And to see that work would be again, it's a heavy lift. I want the platform to do it for me. It's a one-time thing, set and forget, and then I can just benefit from the recipe and deploy my applications as stock standard Java apps. That's really And by the way, you mentioned the gigabyte hour. That the green energy, it's not a cliche, right? I mean, people are really spending a lot of money these days trying to find ways to optimize their cloud infrastructure spend, and part of that is ARM, and part of that is native images, and you can partake in a lot of those benefits without nearly so heavy a lift yourself. The platform is the natural place to make some of those sweeping whole system changes to get you there.
Right. I do think that there's two kind of, like you were saying, a lot of stuff has commoditized. I do think, though, that the speed angle is still something people are striving to go faster, particularly with the way governance comes in. Like I watch teams have to go through audits before they're allowed to get their images promoted, and then we have the whole security side of the house coming in. And so if they can go faster, that's the one. Then the other is, like you said, the efficiency side of things. If we can show materially a smaller runtime footprint with no downside, I think that's very interesting. And again, I know that's behind the scenes after you've got the work done, Josh, but that's where I live, in that world of making them happy and proud.
Right. Well, this is good. This stuff I like. So we've got Cloud Foundry, we've got the Kubernetes story. What do we call that stuff? Because Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes are the open source monikers for technologies that we ship, support, scale, maintain.
Yeah. On the commercial side, it's called the Tanzu platform, and we have the Tanzu platform for Cloud Foundry and the Tanzu platform for Kubernetes. And you come in and you, like it was asked earlier, how do I help and where do I help? And it has everything from Spring support all the way down to either one of those runtimes on anybody's, potentially anyone's Kubernetes, not just ours, or Cloud Foundry stack that we would just deploy. And the thing I rediscovered again was I can put the Cloud Foundry thing in 2 hours. Just give me a vSphere cluster and the right permissions on it, and that I miss those days, because when you have the Kubernetes world, it's a rising tide that lifts all ships. But whose image registry you're going to be using, and is there an enterprise one, and we got to onboard with that? Have we got a cluster? We're going to create a cluster. So again, we kind of have someone called it the iPhone and Android. You have more flexibility on one side, you have more opinion on the other. You can go to the same place in either path.
Yeah.
And little or as much of it as you want. I think I have an app I could show you at some point for the native image thing. I'm just trying to find it.
So I'm from my the workloads I'm looking at, the people I'm talking to, they're all building Spring and services and these kinds of things. And like I said, the biggest problem for them isn't how to build the app; it's how to get it live. And Spring has solved not everything, but surely most things people are dealing with on the back end. It's just a question then of how do I get that into? How do I give it a URL? Like how do I take it from my works on my machine to works on everybody's machine?
Yeah. Can I do a little demo? Can I?
Absolutely. Share your screen.
Let me see what happens here.
And we'll narrate this for the people listening to the podcast.
Yeah. Oh yes, that's right. And for those of you watching in black and white.
Yeah. Okay. Share your screen. Add to
I've
scene.
put it up now. You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So what I did here, and again, I'm on that playing with the experimental pieces.
Would you mind making the screen
Can I-
safe? Yes.
So what you're seeing here is Cloud Foundry. I'm looking at what we call a space. Tanzu has these spaces in both universes. And so I deployed an application, and it's Hello World. Now I'm going to push it again just to show what it looks like to do this. So I have a just simple REST controller here. It just says Hello Tanzu or something like that. Nothing. It doesn't get any more basic than a REST controller saying something like that. And print a few environment variables. That's it, and say hello. If I package that up, if I want to deploy that, I have no manifest file. I have CF target. So I've logged in to a platform, and I want to CF push, and we'll call it HW, and we'll just do -p target /tdemo. And that's it. That is the command that's going to, behind the scenes, take that jar, set it up for containerization server side. So I don't have an OCI image responsibility. I don't have a Docker file. I didn't even tell the platform it's Java, because it's up to the platform to now do what Heroku showed us what to do 15 years ago and try and figure out what this guy needs. So it's going to start looking, is this Ruby, Java, Node, .NET, whatever, and it'll find the right build pack. And in a couple of minutes, we should see it as an internalized container image getting scheduled and one instance of it running with 1 GB of RAM. And that's the magic of the experience we're doing with Tanzu and both the Cloud Foundry and on the other side as well. But it's an experience that we're very good at. We've been doing this for a while. I think that's sort of the starting point. Now, if I have that running, we've seen that. We've had that for 10 years. Heroku had that a decade ago. Where it gets interesting is if I open another window and I do CF build packs, I can take a look at the build packs in the platform. And we see we have this whole bunch. And this is how, behind the scenes, I can make sure that platform operator's got the latest versions of Java, gives you some choices. The same would go for other languages. But if you look down at the bottom, there's this really interesting one lurking down here called Java Native Image Cloud Native Build Pack CMB Beta. And what this guy does is he uses the Cloud Native Build Pack, so pack, and it can essentially, it won't be as fast as the other guy. Now I'm on an anemic little nook downstairs, so it takes a few minutes. My machine's not very fast. It'll take a lot more minutes, so I might have to Martha Stewart some of this to explain what's happening, and we can come back later. But deploying an application is a minute or two, and it's just a JIT compiled, containerized instance of an app. But my unit of deployment was just the jar. Get me something, I want to go run it. I've run it locally, I love it, I want to send it out there. And behind the scenes, the platform's going to put it in this space. Now, in this space, I don't have to worry about even doing it. I have service mesh levels of encryption. I'm going to get encryption all the way into this container, even behind the ingress controller, turnkey. Didn't have to do a thing. Because it's going to, as part of the rollout, it's going to put an Envoy sidecar in there and just do it for me, hands off. And I can just check that box, encryption in motion, done. If we have databases, caching, GenAI servers, messaging, whatever we want, we can go to our marketplace and get some. And if we want to give that information to the app, we can bind it. It's actually really cool. We have the special interest group in the Kubernetes world as well. You want an environment variable so your app will initialize and just work. Where does that come from? I don't need to use an external secrets manager if I don't need to. I can go to my marketplace and get a Dataflow server, get a Postgres or Rabbit. And if it's in that space, there's an instance of it. Now the app can be given that instance, and it's done behind that scenes. I literally called bind. Where the interesting thing I was playing with, though, was I always wondered, because Deshaun and I were hacking away, showing me how to do native images. We were doing the SDK man locally on our Macs, and I thought, this is awesome. But it's also, for me, it was a lot to kind of configure, even on my workstation, to do that first native compile. And once I saw it compile, like, this is awesome. But I'm like, what would be the best possible way to introduce this to my customers, where they don't get to install stuff on their laptops easily, and there's all these challenges with just operationalizing the stuff. Well, if only the platform had that native image capability on the other side. Then I'm like, ooh, now we're talking. So I thought about that, and I said, okay, well, here's Hello World, and if I try to hit it, boom, there it is. I see Hello World pops up. I thought, okay, can I use the jar file but natively staged, not JIT compiled,
Right.
not just run the jar? And the answer is, with the new build pack, you can. There's a few caveats, like it needs a lot of memory to do the native compilation. You got to give that container 8 gigs. It's going to take on my machine 10 or 15 minutes. But what should pop out on the other end of that is an image that you could run in 32 meg for Hello World, not a gig that we do in the regular world. And I thought, ooh, that's a thing worth trying. So I said, sorry, yeah.
You're shifting compilation left so that the optimization is done at compile time, and you don't have to pay for it at runtime.
Right. So I can iterate here the way we just saw, and I can run on this, I can remote debug this, I can play with it. But if my CI tool could kick off something that could say, hey, could I get that jar back from the platform and send it in again, but under the native image build pack? And so I again, this is a little prototype, it's up on a public Git repo, but I wrote this thing called an optimizer, which is just to explore, where is it? I have too many windows open. Yeah, this guy. So what I did is I wrote a, let me run it first, because it'll take a while. So my CF apps, now I gotta see this. Okay, I have this app in the platform, Hello World, HW. I'm gonna do no, CD downloads, CF Java tools. Okay, and I do CF Java optimizer, and all I'm going to give it is the app name, HW. And again, I was only for Hello World right now, but it's a sign of where we're going. So if I run this command, what it's going to do, I didn't even give it the jar. I'm in a different folder. I'm having the executor of this, which could be a task running anywhere, pull the compiled running asset back out of the platform unstaged, just the initial jar. Not right. And set all these settings you need to make sure the Maven active profile is right and the version for the build pack, etc. And ask it to be staged using the native image build pack with enough memory so that it can get through the staging process. And assuming we get out on the other end, I would like you to take the new shrunk down version, which it will shrink after it's running, and wire it to the original route. So we hit this guy, Hello World HW, and we got an answer, and we got a GUID. And hopefully we can call back in and see this in a few minutes, where there's two implementations behind that ingress route. One is the typical one, and one is the highly optimized one. And my goal was to see, is it feasible to have this completely non-disruptive, could be another thread in the background, but I want to give folks the opportunity to see if they can get their app natively compiled and staged. But with almost none of the build system overhead and any of that. It's literally another push command. And I was sort of playing with that. It's been a fun hack, and trying to show off what we might be able to do more of in the future.
I love this. So this is, again, this is not, this is your home lab. It even says so in the URL.
The whole thing is running in a little nook downstairs. Yeah. In fact, here's Martha Stewart. This is another version of the app I pushed regular. And here's the one it appended that had dash native. And look at this footprint. It's just 30 meg versus a gig. And if I go in here, it's routed to the original route, not just the dash native. And if I go in, I can see that it's running, but I'm running in a 32 meg natively compiled Hello World, granted. Now, taking it next level, because we went from V2 build packs to V3, remember we talked about binding services, Cloud Foundry only has the VCAP services construct, and the native image build packs are a bit different. So I have a few workarounds, but I was able to prototype. This is Spring Data JPA. This is running on top of Postgres.
Yeah.
And this example is now running in, like, it's using 80 meg. And it's a REST service on a database. And if I want 10 of these running, as long as I don't exhaust my connection pool to the database, I've now got the ability to really, bulletproof without the cost and resources, my API interfaces to my basically my entity services. And so this one here is, you're not going to get much here unless I go into /API/customer profiles. And then we have the REST record popping back. but it's snappy on my little 128 gig machine with 6 cores that's busy natively compiling on another thread and running, a dozen VMs and everything else. And now the one interesting thing that came out of this, because I showed this off internally, and it's cool, but then I'd get comments like, "Oh, my customer would never let that get deployed." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because this guy on the right is a very noisy neighbor. Native compiling is expensive and heavy, and this is the double-edged sword of pushing just the app and having the platform turn it into what it needs to be before it runs." So I thought about that. And it turns out I have an interesting other feature that is in the platform that nobody knew about, which was you can actually, I pulled back the jar to send it in and have it natively compiled, but I can pull back the droplet after it's natively compiled. So I'll show you a trick. This is one, I don't know many people that do this in the platform, but if I go and look at that native image that I've got going, so let's cd/temp, I'll make it folder. Okay, I'm just in a folder. If I do CF apps, I've been at this for 10 years. I found this API called this year, and I was beside myself going, why didn't I know this existed? This is the little 32 gig, the 32 meg instance of REST service.
It's not Slack. Come on.
Right. So you have download droplet TMF tdemo native.
Wait, what?
Yeah. You can ask the platform to give you the staged compiled image, the equivalent of the OCI image. It's actually the OCI image minus the stack, because Cloud Foundry injects the stack later. But I just pulled in a file that is the staged asset. It's the executable. So here's what I can do. Let me try this. If I'm probably going to break the stage of doing this. You guys can trust me that guy will be done in 10 minutes if I stay connected. But if I go over to this other foundation, this one's running on a colleague's machine. It's similar, same experience, but it's running completely somewhere else. I actually made a namespace here, a space, and I have something in there. Okay, now pretend that's prod. I don't want to run 15-minute staging tasks times now however number of pipelines are running at the same time and impact production apps. What could I do? Well, can I just deploy the executable that's already been staged in non-prod, the droplet? And so if I CF, and I CF login, I have to use SSO to get into his one. SSO. And let me just go get a code here.
Do you want to shut down your screen share?
Actually, it's temporary code. It'll be gone in a minute. I will try that again. This is just a temporary one-time use, so hopefully I won't get everyone in here while this is on. Okay, that's a one-timer. We're good. All right, so I go in here and I CF apps, and I just see that TD app. Now, pretend that's the production app. Everyone's very nervous about protections against noisy neighbor, but don't go setting off, 20 GCC compilers on this thing.
No.
Well, what I can do is I have something in this folder. Let's say our app is called foo, or TMF foo, just something unique. CF push, we did hello world, TMF foo, -- droplet. / our file.
What?
And then -m,
What?
32M.
How long is this impossible?
I don't have to have it turn this. It's going to bypass all the build pack staging stuff and go straight to stuff this into an internal blob store and run it. And so all I'm doing is I'm uploading 300 meg, no stager overhead. I can safely, so this is another peanut butter and jelly moment. It's like native image compiling in the platform and staged asset portability. They're like, ooh, these two together are way better than the sum of their parts. And so in this other instance, and it shouldn't take long, just 32 meg of memory required, no 8 gig, even ephemeral 8 gig staging overhead. The equivalent of the Docker Compose doesn't have to run. And hopefully...
Oh, what happened over there?
He's busy. He's still compiling. Yeah, look, we should have something here. So this app here, route, boom. So you see an app now running in some, in quotes, production platform that was running one command off an artifact that had all the work done. It's made immutable, signable, everything else. And it's portable. So I thought that was kind of fun, taking those two things together. And it's all downstream. It's all sort of, get me an app that works, that does natively compile, and I'll show you a way to put it anywhere you want. We're also playing around with, can we write a Docker file to make this just an OCI image? Of course we can. There's so much power in this that I think taking the learning curve down, taking the bar down, because we know there's a lot of stuff to make sure your app will natively compile. As the apps get more, and I will be honest, there's a disclaimer here. Really heavily reflective apps might mean you're on your platform where you're staging, you need enhanced timeouts, because it might be more than 10 or 15 minutes. But I think there's something on the other side of that for the upload the apps to work with. It works.
And if you have beefier hardware, you might avoid that timeout.
Right. It doesn't get any less beefy than what I'm running. Yeah. So I think share that. I think there's some really cool stuff there.
Are those is the download droplet and the you can specify a droplet when you do the CF push, but are those supported in the Cloud Foundry Reactor-based Java client, I wonder?
That's a great question. It's in the, so when I was doing the download the jar to get when I was doing that CF Java optimizer hack, there wasn't a CF download unstaged asset. I had to go into the CF API for that. It's not that deep a rabbit hole. Like to pull in the hard one was pulling back the unstaged, the jar. And if you come back here, it was literally CF curl v3 app packages to get the href where it is. And then to actually get the jar, I think I did a regular curl. I gave it a token, which I'm able to get with a CF token, I think it is. And a CF OAuth token. And I literally pulled my jar down with this curl command. Yeah. And the curl, so the app package curl endpoint, I pull out of this href. So again, even if it's not supported, it's not a huge leap to splunk deeper into the CF API. It's pretty clean.
And plus you could just, you could use, what I'm wondering is the Reactor Java client does a lot of work, and then it sounds like the rest of it you could just do with the regular HTTP client in Java. That program in turn could be multi-threaded and could be compiled to native code. So you could write the CF Java optimizer as a 5 megabyte binary or whatever that does these things concurrently, because you've got a bunch of serial steps here.
Correct. And imagine putting this in a platform.
Yeah.
We have this auto optimizer going on a background that would leave your CI, your testing environments ready to see. Because when I do this, the demo I was doing initially when I was testing this out was, can I have it run so that I deployed my app? Actually, look at this. We have the one we deployed. Native is running.
Hi.
30 meg, right? From our, and that was our hello world. If we go to this route here, so copy that link, and we do the old curl hack, which is, and I'm sure I'm sorry, I've done this before, but I can't resist. So I just do a while true, do sleep one, and curl that thing. Hang on, sorry. While true, do sleep one, and curl that. Done. So we're in a loop. Now, one of the things I did in the demo was I print the GUID, the unique identifier of the app. And what you see here is you see two different GUIDs toggling. It's load balancing between the JIT compiled version and the native version. So if I was showing this off, I might have had this running before the native image finished compiling. And you now have the native and the JIT running side by side. If you like the test, you can surgically attack one of them only if you wanted to. But if I'm happy that native one is not erroring out, I can just come in and stop the regular one that we pushed 10 minutes ago, and we're going to settle now into just the GUID of the native one. And boom, we're done. So hey, it worked. Oh, if I have a regression, I'm gonna, I saw something dodgy, and turn the other one on again. And I was really hoping to make native optimization something that's more for the platforming / operations guys to come out. They would have a contract with you on the dev side to say, do you mind doing -p native so that I have all the bits in there, and maybe put the Ground VM tools and so on. Like, there can be some asks of the teams upstream, but I don't want to ask them to go and set up SD-Man and configure a native compiling environment. I'd love to see it as something that lazily optimizes and offers the option if it does work, but never set of their day job play, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's been the hack of the week for me.
Oh man, that gives me hope. Gives me hope. So good. I don't know if we can top that. I think we should just quit where we're ahead. That's freaking awesome. Like easy production.
Yeah. I actually have a question, Josh, and that is, have you seen, like, I talk a lot about, people should keep upgrading and get to the latest version. And we have people out there that are on ancient versions of Java and ancient versions of Spring. Before we get to any of this, like getting them up to Java 21 or better, this is in a theme of optimizing and improving what you got without having to rewrite it. Like, where would you stack rank things like virtual threads, just getting to the latest compilers, then going down the CDS path? A colleague of mine has a experimental build pack doing that too, as another in between. Just your thoughts on, is there a carrot to get to the latest version?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Java and all languages, you see people are trending behind. So Java 17, I think, is the most widely deployed at the moment. But that Java 17 was brand new just a few years ago, so I'm sure Java 21 will become the thing soon enough, And virtual threads is free scale. I can't imagine not using that for every conceptual workload. And it's also a chicken and egg thing, right? Like, people don't deploy to they don't take advantage of the latest and greatest because their production environment doesn't support it. But if the production environment is evergreen, like Cloud Foundry, and it's always updated, then why wouldn't you? Like, production is no longer the reason you can't have nice toys. I'm
gonna make that soundbite of the day. Do I have to do much to get to virtual threads other than upgrade?
I mean, there's a property, spring.threads.virtual.enabled equals true.
Yeah, that sounds super easy.
Yeah, you just put that as a variable.
Yeah, no, I gotta try that. I'm convinced that there's been so much capabilities at the Spring layer and in the Cloud Foundry layer and the Tanzu layer underneath that I'm still playing. I'm in the middle of it. I'm still playing catch up on what is the art of the possible. What can we do? How can we make their lives a lot better? And I love the idea of us showing them those optimizations, because a lot of them are paying by the gigabyte hour.
Yeah, and I'm I know this is cliche, but it's top of mind for me, because again, like next week I'm taking a little PTO, going to Hawaii. They have turtles there, and I think about the turtles all the time. Like, run native images, save the turtles. It's better for everybody if you do that, right? Yes, how much is okay? See, look at that.
Yeah,
it doesn't cost if the platform's just doing it, right? Like, or maybe it does because you have to modernize your code. But hopefully, you're just doing that. My dad used to say, and this is in freedom units, not like the rest of the world, but my dad used to say, it's a cinch by the inch, hard by the yard, right? So, like, if you do things in measured progress as opposed to all at once in large leaps, it's easier. The maintenance, the ongoing evolution of software is easy if you just do it as it comes.
I love the again, giving Deshaun a shout again about build packs. Don't use Docker files, because even in a way that's completely technology neutral, you can take open source pack, you can get OCI images, you can take them where you will, but you now have a tool that every time you run it, it'll apply the latest stack and the latest JVM patches to it, so that the minor patch work can mechanically be optimated, and just put your focus on some testing instead. And then some of the work they're doing on Upgrade Planner is looking at open rewrite type recipes to help with the majors. And that's a cool combination where we can get the minor help almost fully automate the minor, just regression test it, and then with the majors try and help with some of the recoding.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so big, so
I
good.
didn't want to shamelessly plug that, but I cringe when I hear someone says we're still on Java 8, and I'm like, no, don't say that.
I cringe when they say they're still on Java 19. So
we deal with different people.
we are not the same. Okay.
Yeah.
We both cringe when people are on older versions of Java, but we are not the same. Difference here. I guess that's the lesson, people, is just upgrade. What do you have to lose? And you have everything to lose by not upgrading. So
yeah.
On that bombshell, thank you, my friend. This has been great. I think I've got a lot of stuff I want to go try. I want to. I want that script, by the way. Where can I get that script?
The link is public. It's CF Java Tools on GitHub. I'll put the link in the chat.
Mm.
And then, it's a little hack script, but I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, I love it. And then, are you on the internet? And if so, do you want to be found? And if so, where can people find you?
Haven't used it in a while. Fynes on Twitter. X.
What is FYNESY?
Nesy.
Okay, on the Twitter, and which one's the other one?
No, I just said X. I'm dating.
Okay, X and Twitter. Okay, there it is. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of it. Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Take care.